Okay, so welcome everybody to this week's video. I've got a very exciting guest for you this week. I'm just going to introduce him. So firstly, he's been self-employed since 2006. That's when he started his mortgage protection business in 2006. In 2015, underwent a massive change, and he reopened with a more efficient team in 2016, which was focusing on self-employed entrepreneurs. His business, Active Mortgage, is an award-winning business in 2019. He's written a best-selling book in 2017, and he's now a regular keynote speaker with an equal passion for educating, training, coaching, and mentoring other business owners and professionals. And through his business, he has helped hundreds of self-employed people secure finance and has spent virtually £0 on marketing through that business. He works with renowned coaches, trainers, entrepreneurs. One such is Rob Moore from Progressive. He's also the owner of Financial Pro, the #1 community and training company for financial service industry. He hosts a popular podcast as well. He is an avid fitness fanatic. And when he's not doing business or training, he is the ultimate family man, spending time with his wife and his 3 children. And on top of that, he was also one of my very first mentors back in the gym. Gary Das, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well, mate. Thank you very much indeed. That's one hell of an intro. I don't know what to say. I'm almost a little bit embarrassed.
No, that's an awesome. And I've just, through over the last 5 years, just seen your progress, and it's inspiring. It's been inspiring. And I know I just mentioned a lot there, but why don't, just to kick this off, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been a business owner since 2006, had a roller coaster journey, and it's been a fun journey, really, to be honest. I think everything happens for a reason, but I built a life insurance business from 2006. I had 2 years self-employed as a mortgage broker, working off my dining table, which was a lot of fun. I then had to transition because of the credit crunch and built a life insurance business up until 2015, but effectively built a business that I hated. It was highly profitable, nearly 6-figure profits, but I didn't like our clients, didn't like the way we were generating business, didn't like the fact that I was spending 240 grand a year on buying leads. And having moved home as a company director in 2015, I saw the opportunity to downsize and start all over again for probably what was the 4th time since going self-employed, sort of in a 10-year period. But that was kind of the realization in 2015 was, if I continue to do what I've always done, I'm always going to get the same result. And NLP was the first course that I did. I know you're obviously big in your mindset and do a lot of talking around that. And I became an NLP practitioner in early 2016. And that was kind of the catalyst to a new version of Gary, shall we say, where I went down a business and a personal development rabbit hole, up until about 6 weeks ago, where I've literally turned off everything. No audiobooks, no podcasts, no mentors, no coaches, no outside viewpoints, just as a means to actually get some stuff out of my head rather than keep filling it. If you constantly keep filling a bucket, then it just overspills. And I think having done that consistently since 2016, fill my head with education, inspiration, there's a time of using this corona environment to switch off and do something different. So yeah, I then downsized, and then 2016 just became the catalyst for personal development, business development, realizing that actually from making 10 years worth of mistakes, I wanted to help other people not make the same mistakes that I did, which law of attraction, 2016, I knew I wanted to give up mortgage advising and build a team. After building solid foundations, I achieved that last year in April 2019. I knew in 2017 that I wanted to coach and mentor. Recently found my first ever coaching session with a guy called Andrew Priestley. I found the Zooms on my laptop, and he basically said, why don't you coach your industry as a result of that? And I achieved that in March of 2019. And yeah, I love social media. I love building a business around my lifestyle. I went back to work 3 days after my first daughter was born in 2012, which is why I'm so passionate now about, you build a business to support who you are and what you're about. And I just try and have fun every single day, which weirdly fun to me is killing myself in the gym or exercise, and creating something within a business and inspiring and motivating others.
Awesome. And then there's so much there. There's so many questions that I want to ask there. I think to go back to 2015, 2016, when you were changing and you were reinventing yourself, what were the challenges that you then came up against to basically almost start over?
Yeah, it's so when I went self-employed from 2005 to 2006, I built a mortgage brokerage for somebody else. Effectively, November 2005, it was me, a girl called Emma, and a bloke called Pete. Pete had an investor with 250 grand, and within 12 months, we had taken the business to 100 grand a month. I was sales and compliance manager, Emma was admin manager, and Pete was in the cinema almost every day. And we bought our leads from the likes of Money Supermarket and online providers like that. So I just said to my dad in 2006, look, can I borrow 2.5 grand? I want to go self-employed. I know I can make it work. As long as I've got leads, clients and sales, I'll always be able to build a business. And effectively, I did that for 10 years. The problem was, as the credit crunch happened and the industry changed, those leads started being sold to 3 people. The quality was not as good as it was when the first online lead generation came around. And there was no customer loyalty. I'd not done any marketing. I'd not learned how to build a business. I'm very lucky that my dad's been self-employed since he was in his 20s. So I had the first mentor of, you know, how to do accounts, how to manage my day, how to record my expenses, all the kind of business stuff that a lot of people don't know a lot about. But I'd never had business growth training, shall we say. So in 2015, I just remember hating the business kind of around about the end of 2014. May was the last time that I bought a lead. I had a team of 13. And when I moved home, I effectively saw an opportunity to downsize and start all over again. My bank turned around to me and said, no, you can't have a mortgage because you're self-employed. You've left your profits in your business. You don't have enough salary and dividends. And me being a bit of a dog with a bone, don't like taking no for an answer. Wanting to get back to mortgages as well as a business, just rang 180 lenders over the space of 3 days and just found an opportunity to get back to mortgages without relying on everybody else. And I saw a guy called Jamie Alderton doing video in the fitness space and kind of sharing his journey and everything else. And I thought, well, no one's doing that in the mortgage arena. And I take a lot from fitness even now in my mortgage industry because we're so far behind. It's an archaic industry that needs to catch up. And I just started doing videoing. I basically downsized the team, let everybody go, started all over again, January 1st, 2016, as a mortgage broker with my best salesperson, with my administrator, and went gung-ho 12-hour days for almost 12 months as a means to rebuild as fast as I could, and just manage as many deals and leads and bring the money in as quickly as I could, because I transitioned from a £750,000 a year business to a startup again. But I'd got a car, a lifestyle, and, you know, all that kind of stuff that I'd built, all of which, funnily enough, because I had no purpose to why I was building my business in 2015, made me feel emotionally dead. I had I've got an Audi RS5. My wife's got a Q7. We bought our dream house, which we're in now, but it still left me feeling, what the fuck am I doing it all for? Excuse the language. There was no purpose and no why. So when I went through personal pain and personal experience as a business owner, it then led me to say, well, actually, I can solve a real problem for other people here. Because if I've been doing this since 2003 and struggled, how the hell are other business owners going to be able to deal with it? So then that became a passion project in 2016, which just changed the whole game.
Okay, good. Oh, awesome. So for those people right now who they don't have a why, they don't have a purpose, they feel a bit lost, what do they need to be doing?
So the purpose thing, I think it's one that's really, really difficult, because your purpose and your why potentially cannot make you any money. You know, it's one of those that loads of people can go in search of trying to find their purpose and their why and everything else. But the main thing that I think actually I would say is I hated the feeling that I had sitting in my office in 2015, looking at the team sitting in front of me, spending 20 grand a month on these really poor quality leads that 50% of them wouldn't answer. Another 50% of that 50%, i.e. a quarter, would be reluctant to talk to you because they'd probably had 4 or 5 people phoning them. And transitioning then to putting a video out onto social media, answering the question, can I get a mortgage with 1 year's accounts? And people actually commenting saying, I've been asking myself this question, I didn't know this was possible. You know, actually thinking about, and I hated doing video, you know, that was one of the big things to kind of stress, but it was a needs must scenario. So in finding your purpose and your passion, it's got to be about serving other people more than anything else and solving somebody else's problem. Because then when you solve a problem for somebody else, you get the kickback or the feeling back of the reciprocity. You give once and you receive, you know, you give 3 times and you receive once, for example. But it's also just doing what ultimately makes you happy. And I wasn't happy sitting in an office, even though we had the money and the lifestyle and everything else, trying to build that business with no real outcome and no real purpose that I was serving to anybody or anyone other than my bank balance. Whereas I was much happier earning less in 2015 or 2016, almost scraping the barrel for 12 months, trying to rebuild again. But I knew that I was having a bigger impact on other people. And I knew that I was doing things that I've never done before. And in 2015, I'd got to a point where I just plateaued. And I didn't wake up every day inspired, motivated, jumping out of bed. And I'm a different person now to what I was back then. It was like, I got so drunk on New Year's Eve 2015 because it was like the end of the worst year of my life, and I just drank it all away and started again as kind of almost that was like a new reinvention almost. And I had the worst hangover as well on the 1st of January. It was horrendous. I can still remember it now. It's probably one of the things that stopped me drinking. I blame my kids, but it's probably not. It was probably that hangover. So I think to kind of summarize it, serve other people, do something you love every single day. Do what is actually really fun to you. If you're doing 10 tasks and you can love 7 of them, happy days, you know, you're winning. If you're doing 10 tasks and you only love 3 of them, you've got to do something to make a change, because that's never going to get you the result that you want to have. And it's never going to make you feel like you're following your purpose, your passion, your vision, your goal.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say, so then for people starting out, let's say that they found what they're passionate about, they found what they love, they've started to help other people, help solve other people's problems. What do they need to be doing to really make a success of it?
So this is where, and this is quite good in terms of what I now do. So over my first 10 years of business, you know, I always believe that you don't want a coach and a mentor who has had an easy ride to get to where they've got to. Because if it's been easy, they're not going to know how to deal with problems. Most millionaires who go and lose it all can then become successful again because they've lost it all and they've had success once. It's every time you make a failure, you get a lesson. You know, there is no failure, there's only feedback, as they say in NLP. And therefore that gives you an opportunity to get more results. So I spent 10 years making mistakes, but still had success. I built a business. I let a mate buy into my business and bought him out. I've had over 50 staff and had to downsize 4 times over the course of the year. I've been through a pivot and a credit crunch. I've had social anxiety, as I would call it, where I just literally existed in my own little bubble, and NLP was the thing that broke through that. I've not done marketing for 10 years. And now I've done over 100 videos online and everything else. And what I kind of realized, which is why I now coach and mentor other financial services professionals, was there's a process. So if you've got something that you love doing, you understand it, you've had success in it, you've also had failure in it, because that's where the learnings and the lessons are, learning what not to do. Then you go through a journey of saying, right, what's the vision that I have? What's my ideal day look like? What's my goal for the next 12 months? Because then you can reverse that into quarterly. How does my day actually how is my day structured, and how does it actually look? I'm doing this with you at 9 o'clock in the morning because I've just done my walk and my workout, and I know that I'm the most energetic. Do it at 3 o'clock. That's admin time. That's not motivational, happy Gary. That's Gary. You know, it's like, understand where your energy highs and lows are and put your income generating tasks in that time. So what's your vision for your day, your life, and your business, and those people that you really want to serve? Once you're clear on that, you're then almost clear a little bit in terms of what's most important to you and what's not most important to you. So then you can start working on your marketing. Once you know your marketing, you can then use social media, you can do ads, you can do blogs, you can do video, you can do audio, podcast, whatever it might well be. So vision, marketing. You then need to make sure that you've got a solid process and a customer journey to take your client from A to Z. You know what it's like in mindset. The journey is they're currently at A, you want to get them to Z. How do you do that in the quickest possible way? We do that within my brokerage. I do that within my 6 steps that I'm now talking through. Once you've gone through process, it then becomes about sales, because you've got to make money, but you can't make money if you're not doing the right things at the right points during your sales process or having the right conversations. Once you've then improved the sales, you then need to add people, because everybody needs to recruit at least one person, even if it's for an hour a day. You shouldn't be doing lower value tasks like invoicing, answering the phone, booking your appointments, structuring your day, chasing people for payment, bookkeeping. They're all tasks that you can leverage out for £10, £11 an hour. Research, letting people into Facebook groups, all these things that I've got someone else doing for us now that just aren't worth the time, because you work out what your hourly rate is based on your sales and what you can generate. If you're earning 50 grand a year, you divide that by the number of weeks in a year, you divide that by the number of hourly hours that you work. Anything less than your hourly rate, you leverage out to somebody else. So you then have people. First person's got to be administrator, then it's going to be sales and marketing, and then it becomes about, right, now we've got a solid 5 foundation. Now we look at how we business and structure and how the business model fits the vision. Yeah. And then you reassess everything. So that's effectively my 6-step process that I now take people through. So you start with the beginning, you look at the end and set the destination and the postcode, and then you fill every gap in between.
Yeah, it's important to follow those processes. It's important to follow those steps. And a couple of things that are coming up there, you're obviously talking about money, but you were talking about time as well, leveraging time, outsourcing it. So what's more important? Is it to earn more money, or is it to create more time for yourself?
Well, we can't create more time because we've all got the same amount of hours in a day. But the fact of the matter is, I've got the same amount of hours as you. We've got the same amount of hours as Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Ed Milet, The Rock. The fact of the matter is, they're more efficient with their time. And it's like, if you want to see a perfect example, Kevin Hart? Yeah, the comedian guy. He's got a series on Netflix, which is kind of about his life. And you see how much he crams into a day, how much fun he's actually having, how he's going on tour with his best mates, but how his diary is ran like a machine. You see Joe Wicks on the TV at the moment, and he shares on his Instagram stories pictures of what his day looks like and stuff like that. He's not telling himself where to be most days. He's putting in the diary family time first, because that's the most important bit. He's putting in the income generating tasks. That's the most important bit. PE with Joe. Of course he's doing it, and he's giving away the bloody YouTube money for it. But what's happening as a result of what he's doing with PE Joe? He's raising a shitload of money for the NHS and donating that. But then off of the back of that, his face is being seen by thousands, millions, hundreds, whatever, and they're all buying his 90-day program on his app. So although it's a great marketing tactic. So it's all about how you manage time. The more people that you serve and solve problems for, the money will come as a byproduct of that.
Okay. So why do people have such a problem then? If we all have as you said, Richard Branson, Ed Milet, Elon Musk, we all have the same number of hours. Why do people struggle managing their time so much?
Because it takes discipline and routine. My diary over the course of this week, and I did this right at the very beginning, but this is obviously you're the little grey bit in there. I've got my workout in there. I've got breaks in there. I've got when I'm checking my emails. I'm on a thing tomorrow. Yesterday went completely out the window. So it's like my outlook rules my life. It's color coded, it's diarized, it's structured, and it's working on specific tasks at specific times. So you think of, and a perfect analogy was like when you're at school. You learn so much when you're at school because you have lessons. You're in at 9 o'clock. You do an hour's worth of lesson. You have a little break or your milk or whatever they do. They then have another little chunk of lesson. Then it's lunchtime. Then they're having a little play and giving their brain a break. Then they're doing another bit. So actually they've got 5 to 6 hours solid, focused, structured time. And that's what helps them learn and develop and grow through school. And what we tend to do when we get older and when we get adults is we don't have that same routine and that same discipline in our own lives. And you all know what it's like when you want to go on holiday. All of a sudden, if you're going on Wednesday, you cram 5 days of work into 3 days. If you're going on a Monday, you cram 5 days of work into 1 day. So we can all string it out as much as we possibly can, but it's understanding efficiency, chunking. You know, I'm doing a load of videos for I've written out 52 videos for my training and coaching and mentoring academy. And I've written out the way in which they're going to be done, because bite-sized chunks, an hour's worth of training per week when you're mentoring and coaching in a group community is enough. People can't absorb more than that. But I've written out what they all are. And I'm going to do 2 months in one fell swoop in a day. And that's going to take the stress out of it. And that's going to free me up then to do other stuff. And then we can just load it where it needs to be loaded and job done. You might choose to do these episodes back to back and have one after another. But then you're free to then do loads of other things, and you haven't got to panic for 5 weeks before you go and get another 6 weeks done.
So it's about putting the tasks, actually physically putting them in your diary, chunking time as well. But how do people, because a lot of people will recognize that, and they know, people have the answers and they know that they have to do these things. However, what do they need to do to physically then take the action to be disciplined, to be routine? Is it something they have to say in their head? Is it a particular action they have to do? How do they physically then get disciplined? How do they physically put a routine in and follow it through?
Small things, small steps. If you turn around and say, I want to lose a stone, and then all of a sudden you decide to yourself, right, I'm going to run 5K every day. I'm going to cut 1,000 calories out. I'm not eating chocolate, biscuits, ice cream, blah, 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 blah. You'll do that for a week, and then you'll go, I ain't doing that no more. You might even not make a week. You'll probably make 1 or 2 days, because it's too much of a transition and a change. The thing that happens is you need to make one tiny step. And you know that I've trained in the morning since Willow was born now 5-6 years, 5:30 most mornings. Sometime in the summer I can do 5 o'clock. In the winter I have to do 6 o'clock. But that didn't just happen overnight. It was a case of one day I did a morning session. The next week I did 2 days morning session. Then I was really tired, so I left it another week and did another 2 days. And over the course of maybe 6 to 8 weeks, I was able to then completely shift my body and my brain and my pattern from afternoon at 3 o'clock till 5-6 a.m. in the morning without feeling tired or sluggish. And it's the same in doing this. The way in which you get more momentum, and the way in which you get more results, and the way in which you improve your mindset is by first keeping the promises that you make to yourself. So when you make too many changes, you then cannot keep that promise. Therefore, you get disheartened. Therefore, you go to the cupboard and eat a whole pack of biscuits. So if you actually just turn around and say, right, today I'm only going to eat 1 biscuit, and I'm just going to eat 1 biscuit every day for the next 7 days. And then the next week, I'm going to eat 1 biscuit every other day, so on and so forth. So start with, I'm going to do 1 hour, 1.5 hours worth of block time from 9 o'clock till 10:30 every day this week. It's not too much of a change and a transition. But once you get to the end of the week and you actually look and go, holy shit, that's how much I've done in the course of a week. That's how much I've managed to have been focused. Look, wife and kids, bugger off. I need an hour and a half for myself. I've got to get stuff done, or husband or whatever. But then you'll get more momentum. Then you're keeping the promises that you'll make to yourself, which will give you more self-confidence and more self-esteem. And then your results will naturally follow as a result of that.
Yeah. And you mentioned a word there, self-esteem. What is that self-esteem? I think that's really important.
Self-esteem to me is just being able to love yourself and being able to have more confidence in yourself and your ability. When you look at me kind of now to a degree, in 2015, I didn't like leaving I classify, I mentioned earlier, social anxiety. So if I went out, I used to joke with my team that if I left CM postcode, I'd literally come out in palpitations and sweat rashes and all this kind of stuff. And it used to be a common joke because I would always be in my office. I existed with my team. I existed with my family. I didn't push outside my comfort zone in any way, shape or form. And the first thing was going to NLP in 2016. It was arriving in a room in London, around 100 other people in the room, not knowing anyone, not really wanting to talk to anyone, because I had this kind of element of not being around other people or in environments where I didn't really know anyone. And when Steve Payne, my NLP practitioner and also my coach trainer as well, when he said, does someone want to come to the front? Reluctantly, my hand went up and I went to the front of the room, and effectively did an exercise. And this is probably the first time actually that I've not had the hairs stand up on the back of my neck, feeling that emotion that I felt back then. But the hairs, oh, there you go, right behind the ear, saying it made it happen. But that anxiety that I felt then, the sweat, the beads of sweat going down the back of my neck and everything else was the catalyst to the person that you now see. And it was just that first tiny little step that said to me, I haven't died. Yes, it was shit scary, but actually you can do these things. Now I'm getting the shivers. You can do these things that you didn't believe you could. And this is the point where you've got a choice in order to be able to continue to do these things, i.e. push your comfort zone. And the more you do it, the more your self-esteem grows, the more the confidence you gain in yourself, the more you start to like yourself. You know, I used to think that people didn't like me when I was back in 2015, 2016. That was my biggest fear with meeting new people was, are they going to like me? But the more that you start to put yourself out there and hang around with different people and everything else, the more you start to realize that, you know, actually they do. And then your self-esteem and your confidence grows. I think there's a big correlation between self-esteem and confidence. But how you feel about yourself affects your confidence.
Yeah, definitely. So how you spoke about that moment where you had to go up to the front of the room, and that was a moment of fear, a moment of panic. And do you get those even now when you're going through, you're doing your work, you're doing your business? Do you still have moments of fear? Do you still have moments of panic?
All the time. It doesn't matter. You know, I'm pushing in a 7-figure business now between my 2 businesses. My mentors and I go to a mastermind where I'm probably one of the smallest in the room. You know, Rob Moore, you mentioned at the very beginning, £20 million a year business owner. He's probably one of my main mentors now. I'm also his lead trainer for social media. So prior to this environment where we're all stuck at home, I've stood in front of 700 people at various events in 2019, teaching social media, presenting, hosting events for them, all that kind of stuff, which I would never have dreamt of doing in 2015. You know, standing in front of 99 people was the catalyst. I can think of another time in 2016 where I thought I'd try breakfast meetings, and I was number 28 out of 30. And the same feeling I had then was the same feeling I had at the front of the NLP. And that was only for a 30-second pitch of, you know, my name's Gary and I'm a mortgage broker and I specialize in self-employed mortgages and But listening to 27 other pitches before mine was the scariest thing in the world. But it's just a case of, you've got to keep pushing your comfort zone. You know, hosting events, doing things that you've not done before is where you then get the lessons and the learnings and your comfort zone grows. So I know that as a result, we've been stuck at home now for 3 months. I probably haven't spoken to a room full of people since January, which is going to be 4 months. And the next time I then do it, yeah, I'm going to get the nerves. Yeah, I'm going to have the nervous butterflies beforehand. But for me, there'll be anxiety, but there'll also be the nervous butterflies that I get before a race. You know, but equally this is where I think things like visualization, affirmations, seeing how the presentation will go, how the introduction, you know, if you're going to present to a room full of people, the scary part is the first 3 to 5 minutes. So if you actually visualize that bit and say, right, this is how it's going to go. This is what I'm going to say. Da, da, da. I can see the crowd. They're looking at me. They're happy. You can kind of see all that. Once you get through that first 3 minutes, you're fine because you're then in your flow and you haven't got to worry about it. The anxiety is just that initial point. once you start running 100 meters, once that gun goes, the anxiety's gone because you're in a different mode and in a different space. It's exactly the same.
And I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask, what is it that you do what do you say to yourself? What do you think? And that visualization is a big part of it.
Yeah. There's a thing that I listen to as well on SoundCloud, which you quite might like if I've not shared it with you before. And it is called, is it SoundCloud or Spotify? No, it's Spotify. And it is called Alpha Motivation.
Alpha. And I'll put that in the show notes for people as well.
Hopefully this won't play, but I'll show the it's basically a big black square, and it's got a guy on there looking up with like a hood on. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I'll put that in the notes as well, so people.
But when you just listening to that, it's all very much kind of motivationally type speeches, all that kind of thing that primes your brain to be in the right kind of space. But also when I'm driving, I'll listen to that for there, and then for the last 10 minutes, I'll just run through the pitch in my head. You know, what I'm going to say, how it's going to go, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. And I wanted to address the elephant in the room as well. And I know you covered it, but right now we're in lockdown, COVID-19, coronavirus. What did you do when all this? I mean, it was coming out of China, but then it really took off in the UK. I know Italy, Spain were having a lot of problems with it, and then it really took off in the UK. What was your reaction to
it? What the hell's going to happen to the property market? Because that still is my main core business. What are my mentees going to do in order to be able to create more leads, more sales, more profit, and more time, which is my 4 ethoses of how I help them. And I've got a team of 13 within my brokerage, and most of them are based all over the UK. So there was only 3 of us in the office. Jack's dad's vulnerable, so he immediately went home on, what was it, the 19th, I think, was that Friday before it was kind of announced. So we sat down and agreed that we would kind of close the office from the 19th. Toby and I said we'd pop into the office and work up, from there and all that sort of stuff. But it was just a case of, the biggest thing that I've stressed to everybody, even my mentees and even my team over the last however many weeks, 10 weeks, is everybody is on their phones. Everybody has more time. They're furloughed. They're not doing what they've done. They're not doing they're not doing their normal do during the day. So now's the time for marketing. Now's the time to be putting your face out there. And I started doing Facebook Lives every morning at 8 o'clock. My 28-day reach has gone from 40,000 to over 250,000 now. I got an email from Facebook this morning asking me if I wanted to sign up to their supporter program or apply for their supporter program, because I've got communities and engaged audience and all that sort of stuff. And it's just about, leading by example more than anything else, particularly if you're a coach and a mentor. It's a case of being out there in the forefront, not cracking the whip, showing other people the way. And it's a time that you can stand out from the crowd and do things differently. And we are returning to normal now, but it's still going to be a long time before it is normal. So there's still plenty of opportunity to focus on that vision and that marketing part and let everything else form thereafter.
And what's important, because it's all very well looking after you in a time like this, it's all very well looking after yourself, but for you, you've got a wife, you've got children, you're leading a team, you've got people who are following you, they're relying on you to pay their own bills. So you're at another level in terms of leadership. So what does it mean to be a leader for you?
Showing up and leading by example. Again, it's still keeping the promises that you make to yourself, but also the promises that you make to others. So the 8 o'clock morning motivation kind of lives on my Gary Dash page every single day. Being in my community, people can't absorb more than an hour's worth of content every week. So I tend to do that either in one chunk or 2 or 3 chunks, pushing them to do things that they've not always done. So last week, pretty much all of my 118 members did, some of them, a video for the first time ever. Then I'm challenging them tomorrow to do, or Friday, I did a little thing last night and did a poll in my group of, shall we do a Facebook live challenge in the community, or shall we do a 2-minute video challenge? So it's, just doing the things that other people are inspired by and they look up to you for, which I know most of my audience follow me for social media and for marketing, but also a bit of a bit of inspiration as well, which is why I do kind of the morning thing. And there's been days where I don't want to do it. I think it's a case of, for me, where I want to position myself, and this is part of the reason why I switched off from everything. So I've got a mindset coach. If you watch Billions, the series, if you're a business owner, if you watch Billions on Netflix, if you're a business owner and you haven't watched it, you need to go and watch it. But she's my Wendy. There's Wendy Rhodes in that program, and she's a performance coach. And she works for a huge fund manager. And because they're dealing with large money, it's like, if they haven't got the balls to do what they need to do, then they're not going to make money. So she basically keeps them like an athlete would, like Tony Robbins would for an athlete. You saw Tony Robbins hugging the Irish guy who recently won back his UFC title. If your mind's not in the right space, then everything else that you do is not going to be in the right space. And through the conversations with her, it was very much a case of, like I said at the beginning, I've been absorbing so much content, been listening to so much other people, been filling my bucket up so much with information and knowledge, i.e. my head, that actually I just needed to turn it off. And almost find myself within the noise of 7 or 8 other mentors that I've had since 2016. Because otherwise, once you've squeezed the sponge, if you squeeze a sponge and it's empty, once you start to then let that sponge go and you fill it with water, it just overflows. Yeah. So it's then a case of actually squeezing that sponge a little bit out and squeezing some of the water out, which is what I'm doing at the moment. But it's made me realize things like, I want to be the type of coach that is quite open and honest. I think there's so much BS and bravado out there of not wanting to make themselves look stupid, not wanting to show the failures or the mistakes and things like that, where I made a proper faux pas the other day in my community, went against one of my key principles, and rightly so. I got picked up on it, and for want of a better word, trolled for it. It caused me a sleepless night, and I was like, I woke up in the morning and I was like, I'm just going to tell people, make a public apology and say, I made a mistake, didn't mean to do it, should have done it a different way, live and learn, crack on, move on. And I think, honesty, integrity are 2 of the main key things that if you can show that, some people will view that that's weakness, which is what one of my coaches said to me. He's no longer one of my inspirations. Because that was his insecurities that he was passing on to me, where I actually sat back and thought, no, I'm not taking that. That's not how I want to position myself. Life ain't perfect. You've got to show the ups, the downs, because that's what makes people resonate. If you constantly just show cupcakes and rainbows all day long, that ain't reality. And that's not going to inspire other people. Like you asked me, do I still get challenges? Do I still have frustrations? Do I still have all of that? Of course I freaking do. I'm a human being. And I generally find with the likes of Rob Moore, he shares more than anybody else, I think, when it comes to his personal development and his sessions. But you just have to be true and authentic to yourself. And I think it's one of the things that Sue taught me is very much a case of you have a logical brain and an emotional brain. And you need to let your logical brain rule your emotional brain in the sense of why you're doing things. Particularly in a business environment, because if you emotionally react to someone else's method, then that's going to be not how you potentially want to represent yourself or how you are. It's like when someone says something to you that pisses you off, your immediate thought is, whereas actually you then take a step back and you let the logical brain kick in and go, yeah, I reacted quite angrily, but here's why I'm angry. Here's what I can learn from that. Here's how I should deal with it. So it's like, that's the thing that I try and put out there and utilize to lead other people. I did a live this morning, which was all about trusting your gut. But equally allowing the logical brain to override that trusting of gut, unless you felt it kind of 3 times. You will know when you're not you'll know when you're feeling incongruent, because your body will tell you without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, you just know it. You can't describe it. You just know it. And when this all kicked off, you talked about emotion, you talked about the logical side, and when this all kicked off, you saw it. You saw it in the world. You saw it out in public. You saw it on social media. Two very different types of people. Those being logical and going, do you know what? I'm going to make something of this. I can do this, this, and this now. And those who just entered sheer blind panic.
Yeah.
And I really liked what you said as well about being truthful. As a coach for myself, that's something that I'm turning around to, because when you're in that spot as a coach, it's like, no, I don't have any weaknesses. I've got everything figured out. Everything's perfect. Can't show any weakness because otherwise people won't believe in me. And now I've realized, it can't be like that, because people are going to connect with you more if you can just be open and you just be honest.
The big thing that I don't like, though, that I see quite a lot, particularly in some of the circles that I hang around in, is the woe is me kind of negative to positive. I was down in the dumps at the bottom of the earth on death's door, and now I'm a multimillionaire. And they use that kind of that journey and that transition as a means to sell to people. I think that now, I've seen it for so long, I just think that is where it's not congruent, and that's where it's a little bit bravado and a little bit BS, especially when it's emphasized. And I can think of a few people now off of the fact of it. If it's genuine, then of course there's nothing wrong with it at all. The pain that I felt in 2015 was genuine pain, which is why I'm such a massive fan of people not buying leads. But if they do buy leads, you need to make sure that you've got multiple sources. But I won't go on and on about the fact of sitting in my office and spending the 20 grand a month and the world feeling like it's going to close in on me, and leaving the office that night and feeling like, I wanted to commit suicide on my drive home and blah, 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 which some people do. I just think that is, that's just NLP techniques as a means to try and sell to you, which is just not authentic or true. And I know you've hung around in some of those circles as well and seen some of that, particularly in property.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand. You go to those events and it's to make you feel pain in yourself, because that's what you move quicker from pain than you do towards pleasure.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I understand that. And this virus as well, have you seen that in your big life plan, your big vision? Has this been a hiccup in the road, or has this been a golden opportunity?
Both, in the sense that I had big plans for this year, which had to be put on hold. And between the 19th and the 26th, particularly the 20th and the 21st of March, that weekend after everything, I made some big transitions and big changes. I was going to be doing an events business, face-to-face, the whole lot. I've now moved it online. We're now running 5-day challenges. I've done more webinars. We've done a full-day online summit for the financial services industry. And I thought about, at the end of 2019, getting rid of my office. I've been in an office since 2009, but it was a scary kind of thought. Well, working from home, this forced my hand. I'm getting rid of my office as of the 20th of July. My team's remote anyway. I definitely feel like environment dictates performance. That I go to the gym for that very reason. It's all right having the garage as a workout space, but I do like walking through that front door and changing in transformation. Plus, I like the variety of the gym. So we might build something in the garden that can be kind of a wee bit of a home office. I love being around the kids more, which I haven't really done at all. Which is part of the reason why I wanted to get more structure and more routine back into my day, because yesterday and last Thursday I just worked all day, every day. But being around them rather than just on weekends, having little breaks during the day and spending little points with them and sort of working a life around them. It's been a lot of opportunity. Initially, people were kicking off about sales, early on, especially courses and trainings and things like that. But I think that negativity has kind of died down a little bit now. And I just think,
what is your view on that? because we just spoke about going from, you know, people using that pain and a sob story to influence people. What's your view on selling? What's your view on selling in a climate like this as well?
I think it's a case of authenticity. If this is the problem that you've got, this is the what my product can do for you. It's going to happen. Like my coaching and training is going to happen with or without you anyway. We open up on the 1st of June for the quarter. I've got new training, new video, new process, new 6 steps. You know, new design, 52 videos that I'm going to be recording that are going to be delivered and stuff. I know, having worked with 118 mortgage brokers and financial services professionals, I can get them a result. If they want to get it, absolutely fine. If they don't, I'm not going to try and convince you, because you're not going to take the action that's needed to get the result anyway. I'm not going to try and oversell to you and use sob stories to do it. I'll tell you my stresses, anxieties, worries, pains, frustrations, but it's happening anyway. So you can either get in the car and come along from the ride and get to your journey quicker, or you can do it the hard way and take 4 years like I did.
You've done the hard work for people, and now you're giving them the quick route.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what is it? Let me ask, what's the best advice that you've ever been given?
What's the best advice that I've ever been given? I would say when it comes to making decisions, looking at everything as a positive and a negative. There's always balance, but if you never know which road to go, if you're at a crossroads or you've got a decision to make, or you know, decisions and the choices over decisions causes people to procrastinate and not take action. So you get a piece of paper, you draw a line straight down the middle, you write positive on one side, negative on the other, advantages on one side, disadvantages on the other, and you just brain dump down each list. And whichever list is bigger or not, you go with that. If you end up at a 50-50, sort your freaking life out and make one choice. There's always going to be something better than another. You'll never have one that, you know, you'll always have one that outweighs the other. And it's just making sure that, you know, you follow that logical element of positive and negative. I would say, actually, thinking about that again as well, surround yourself with people who lift you up, not pull you down, that are on the same wavelength as you, some that are further ahead, because if all you do is you spend time around people that are further ahead, you're constantly feeling inadequate. So you need to make sure that you spend some time with people at the same level as you. But also when you feel confident enough, you need to spend some time ahead around people that are, you know, 1 or 2 steps behind you, because then you can pass on that knowledge, and that actually helps you improve and embeds your knowledge even better when you're telling somebody else.
Sure. Okay, thank you. So let me, you know, we'll wrap up in a few moments, but a couple of more questions. Who is somebody that people probably don't know, they haven't heard of before, and in your eyes they need to know?
I would say Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret. I think.
And why is that?
Because some people think that it's all a little bit woo-woo and all that sort of stuff. You know, there's a reason why Formula One drivers visualize themselves driving around the track. There's a reason why Olympic athletes visualize themselves running the race. There's a reason why positive mindset is the most important thing. But the first time I experienced law of attraction that I can really remember was 2011, when my wife and I decided that we were going to have a baby. And all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I saw babies freaking everywhere. Pushchairs, prams, all sorts. And then, as I mentioned right at the beginning, 2016, I knew that I wanted to stop mortgage advising. I knew that I wanted to help other people. And 3-4 years later, it happened. A post came up on my social media 2 days ago. I really need to find an integrator, i.e. someone who's the opposing to me. I'm a visionary. I come up with loads of ideas. I take loads of action. I'm good at starting, but not necessarily great at finishing. And I've spent a lot of time learning about myself, what my core strengths are. And I posted a year ago that I wanted to find an integrator. Couldn't really find one. August last year, Andrew joined my team. By Christmas, we were talking about the fact that he used to be a branch manager at Halifax, got him to do an integrator test. I'm 98 visionary, he's 98 integrator. As of the 1st of May, he's now my integrator. And as much as that could be, you know, one person said to me that luck is labour under correct knowledge. And that is effectively, that was one of the first things I remember from when I first went self-employed. Luck is just labour under correct knowledge. And I think the law of attraction plays a massive part in that. And when you actually start to visualize, get a clear idea of where you're going, what you're going to need, where it happens, the universe miraculously starts putting these opportunities and things in front of you. And I think they're in front of everybody right now. But if you aren't open to seeing the opportunity, loads are just going to pass you by. Yep. And it's actually being clear in terms of what you want that then makes it possible for you to see those opportunities. And I think The Secret, the book, Law of Attraction, Rhonda Byrne and the things that she talks about, it's all around that kind of stuff. It's opening up your third eye, your subconscious, having trust and pain. You know, another perfect example, there's a book called The Inner Game of Tennis, which if you're, as a coach, if you haven't listened to The Inner Game of Tennis, give it a go, because it talks about if someone constantly keeps trying to teach you how to hit a tennis ball, you ain't going to hit it. You're not going to do it. But if you actually just sit there and watch somebody swing, how their body works, everything else, your subconscious brain kicks in to copy those exact motions and those actions. And then miraculously, you'll be able to serve better. You'll be able to hit the ball better. You know, that's when you're on a golf course and you constantly keep trying to think about where you want the ball to go, it don't freaking go there. When you just stand up and you relax and you don't overthink it, take a couple of swings and you just punt it, you'll have the best game of your life. And that's where I think that book is so key.
It's being present. It's synchronicity, because so many people they're stressed, they're running around, they're just forcing things, and like you say, they miss the opportunities. And talking, I don't want to leave this. I don't want to leave this conversation without saying it. I know I've said it to you, but when I remember, whenever it was 4 or 5 years ago, coming into the gym, we were talking. Your book had just been published. Your book was out. And you were talking to, do you know this guy, Rob Moore? No, never heard of him. You were going all about him, talking about him. And you were saying, yeah, I want him to review my book. I want him to look at my book. I'd love to work with him. And you were serious about that. You could hear it in your voice. And that was really cool. But at the time, because of the level he was at, he wasn't able to spend that time with you. And then 2, 3, 4 years later, you're working with him as a lead trainer with his social media. And for me, that's an incredible story. And that's really inspiring. And that's always stuck with me, because right there, it's just a classic example of somebody declaring something that they want, visualizing it, putting it out there, and then it happening.
What you believe and perceive, you can achieve.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I've had 3 voice notes from Rob this morning, because tomorrow I'm hosting his social media summit all day long. So we're just finalising a few bits and bobs and details around that, and my social media presentation, and what things he wants me to do and say throughout the day, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, exactly. It was after my book came out in 2016. I think I started listening to his podcast when it came out in 2016. Then my book came out, and I sent him a copy of my book. I went on a couple of his training courses, and it's almost, that's one of the weird things. All these people that you look up to, once you actually get to know them and you meet them, you put them kind of on a pedestal when you don't meet them. But then once you actually get to know them, you just think, holy shit, man. Like, he used to be a fat kid at school. I used to be a fat kid at school. I used to get bullied a little bit for it, but I tended to bully other people when in the year below me, is kind of, you know, I was a fat kid when I was younger. And that plays a big part on who you are as a human being going forward, you know, how you're impacted when you're growing up. But you see the commonality. I see the commonality between me and Rob, but I also see what he is that I don't want to be. And it's just interesting that, you know, he shares quite a lot of it publicly, so most people will know if you follow him, but that authenticity is always there, the open speaking, the way in which when you see someone, you think they're on a pedestal, but actually when you have a conversation with them, you just think, holy shit, they're exactly the same as we are as normal human beings. They still have feelings, they still have emotions. They're just dealing with much bigger problems that maybe they don't have the time to deal with, the, you know, play consistently at the level that you're at.
Yeah. No, nobody's on a, we're all on the same playing field, but that's my belief. No, everybody's on the same playing field, but people just started earlier and they're just further ahead.
Yep. Yeah, correct.
More experience, dealt with.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So last question. What's a question that you haven't been asked before and you've always wanted to answer?
What's a question I haven't been asked before? I have absolutely no idea.
Awesome. So okay then, so what is something that you want to say that you just want to get off your chest, which you feel is really, really important?
Don't play average.
Don't play average. Why?
Because life for most people is about playing average. Your friends will make you want to play average. Your family will want to make you play average because they will try and impart and instill their own comfort zone and their own beliefs and their own nothing is possible mindset on you. But I just think, what's the legacy that you want to leave? What's the inspiration that you want to provide to others? It might not even, you mentioned purpose right at the very beginning of this. What is something that when you're at 70, 80 years old, you want to look back on your life and go, I managed to do that? Mine over the course of the last couple of weeks has been to inspire 1 million business owners. I have no freaking idea how I'm going to achieve that, but I've set the line in the sand and the whole law of attraction thing will make it a reality. I'm at 118 at the moment, paying members. How many that's impacting outside of that? You know, I've had 1,600 people download my free guide on how to generate 30 leads in 30 days. So I've definitely impacted 1,600. And that's the way that you just transition your thought process. Just because you're paying people doesn't mean you're not impacting them. 90% of people will sit and just not comment, like, or share, and will just sit in the wings. But then miraculously, they'll message you one day and be like, something you said 2 years ago resonated with me so much. It transformed my life. And you'll be like, holy shit, I didn't even know that was possible. For example, because I now run a membership site, I've recently now been put into a WhatsApp group with Jamie Alderton, who was my inspiration for doing video back in 2015. And I just now got his phone number. I just messaged him. I was like, hey mate, you might think this is a bit weird. You were my first ever fitness coach back in 2016, after following your journey from the beginning. But I did video because of you. And here's some of the things that video's done for me. And he was like, holy shit, I never even knew. And it's like, you don't know what impact you're having on people. So don't play average. If you think you can't do something, just freaking go and do it. Because if it ain't going to kill you, i.e. don't jump out of a plane without a parachute, because that's just a stupid idea. Give it a go, because I talked recently on a social media video about the fact of my daughter learning to ride a bike. She didn't want to do it. I've taken her stabilizers off us 5 times, put them back on, because every time she stood in it and the bike wobbled, she just had a meltdown. But then eventually one day she decided the stabilizers were coming off. And over the course of 3 days, she went through the same transition that everybody goes through, holding onto the saddle, letting go a little bit, letting go a little bit longer, riding completely independently, turning corners, then kicking off and starting off, and then being able to ride around the complete car park. Now we're at the point of actually just getting her to ride down a pavement where it's quite confined and tight, you know, but it's no different. The difference is, as children, we don't have fear and anxiety and perception. But when we get older, we just live inside this comfort zone and this average life. And average doesn't help others. Average doesn't impact other people. Average isn't necessarily going to make you completely happy, because there's probably more happiness on the other side of your comfort zone than you potentially realize.
Awesome. That's awesome, mate. Thank you. So where do people go to? Social media channels? What is it? What have you got that people can go and look at? Go through your programs. What is out there for people to follow you?
Yeah, so I'm basically Gary Das at everything. So I've got my Gary Das website, I've got my Gary Das YouTube channel, I've got the Financial Pro podcast, which is for my industry, but it's just a business podcast anyway. So if you're a business owner, that applies to you no matter where you are or what you're doing. Obviously, I talk about my 6 areas a lot: vision, marketing, process, sales, people, and business overall. Talk about fitness and mindset and how that helps, and all the areas in which that has an impact on life. And yeah, find me on any social media channels. On my Gary Das page, I've got a big, nice orange background, so I should be easy to spot. But 8 o'clock every day there, I go live and talk about some rambling that I 9 times out of 10, 5 minutes before, have no clue what I'm going to talk about, but people seem to like it.
Awesome. Well, we'll get I'll get all that information from you. We'll put it in the notes so people can go through and find you. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for your time today. I think that's really insightful, and I think what you have to say is important. People need to hear it.
Thanks, mate. Been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I hope it's given one person some inspiration for the day of watching this, and it's been good as equally as well to see your journey from being employed in the gym every morning to then transitioning to doing a bodybuilding competition, which I still haven't managed to do yet. Sticking to the diet, having the discipline, talking to me about the fact of leaving your employed job to then transitioning into, you know, the learning and development and the side that you've gone on. So, you know, you might not think it, but seeing your journey inspires me to pursue my own journey in a similar kind of way. And you know, you don't play average, you push your comfort zones, you're doing things that you've not always done, and you're getting a different result on it. Who'd have thought in 2016, when we were in Extreme Gym, that in 2019 you would be standing in front of audiences of 100 people and holding your own events. But in the same thing, you worked out what you wanted to achieve, you put your line in the sand and made it happen. So tip of the hat, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate that. Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to putting this out there. And yeah, thank you for your time. Awesome stuff. Cheers, mate.